local Zehr show. Today is Friday, May 5th. It is Cinco de Mayo. And speaking of Cinco de Mayo, real quick, we're having our Fun Food Friday here at the Warrior Healing Center starting at 11 o'clock and going until at least 1500 hours. And I believe it is going to be Cinco de Mayo themed. So if you want some good chow, come on in and join us today between 11 and 1500 hours. And we're coming to you here at the Warrior Healing Center, Rising Eagle Studios, as you all know, at the Warrior Healing Center's Sierra Vista, Arizona. Boy, I just screwed my whole opening. I just blew my whole opening thing there. So you know it's not rehearsed. Today's special guest veteran is Elmo Long.
Yep.
Elmo.
That's me.
Thank you so much for coming down and sitting in this morning. We really appreciate it, and we appreciate your service to our country, and that's what we're here to talk about. We're here to tell your story. So let's start off by where was home? Where were you born and raised?
Well, I was born and raised in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and it's a really small town. One of four kids. Dad worked for Uniroyal Company.
Uniroyal, that's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah, it was a big factory in Eau Claire. It was the primary hiring business in Eau Claire at the time, and so pretty normal childhood. Went to high school, North High School. Decided after high school, wasn't really looking to go to college, so I decided I'd give the Army a chance for 3 years and 3 years only. Got into the Army, and 23 years later I retired from the Army, but got into the military in 1978.
So you enlisted in 78?
Yeah,
okay.
And then I joined as a 71 Lima, which for those who understand way back in the day, it was an admin specialist. Yeah. And so went to basic training at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and as soon as we rolled in, the bus showed up with all us recruits, and a drill sergeant got on the bus and said, "Okay, you got 2 seconds to get off this bus, and one of them's gone." And there were people and duffel bags flying out of the windows and out of the doors to try and get off that bus quick enough. Did my basic training at Fort Jackson. Did AIT at Fort Jackson. Kind of a humorous story. I signed up as an administrative specialist. The recruiter convinced me that the Army back in those days was primarily an administrative Army, so admin guys were very, very important to the Army. So I said, well, that's what I want to do then.
Okay.
And then the drill sergeant was breaking us up after basic and sending us off to our specific AIT courses. And he was looking at his roster, and he said, "Okay, show me the hands of all the clerks." Well, of course, I didn't raise my hand because I wasn't a clerk.
Right.
I was an admin specialist. And the drill sergeant looked back up, and he didn't see enough hands, and he went, "Oh, my apologies. Let me see the hands of all the administrative specialists." So I kind of put my hand up, and he said, "Okay, all you clerks, go get on that bus." So we did AIT. It was a self-paced AIT, 7 weeks. I graduated in 1 week.
What?
Because I had learned how to type in high school.
Uh-huh.
So I knew how to type already, so that really helped out. So I graduated. I was fourth in my class to graduate. Had I been third, my first duty assignment would have been the Pentagon. So that was kind of the carrot for graduating the course early. So my first job was with the AG at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, which was again a very small base at the time, out in the middle of nowhere, Missouri. Great assignment. Had a good job, and I was working for the Post in Processing Center as a 71 Lima. They cross-trained me to a 75 Charlie, which was a personal record specialist, which is what we handled when the troops came in and they in-processed in. You'd grab their records, their personnel records, and you'd work through that and make sure they got all set up to go to their unit. From there.
So that was a secondary MOS then?
Yeah, I had two MOSs. I had 71 Lima and then 75 Charlie. I'm not sure I ever got it officially awarded. I don't think I ever got orders for 75 Charlie, but they had me functioning as a 75 Charlie basically. So from there, my NCOIC E7 at the time called me and said, "You're on orders to go overseas." And I said, "Really?" I said, "Where am I going?" And he said, "Well, you're going to Belgium." And he started laughing and hung up the phone. And I went, where the heck is Belgium?
Uh-huh.
You know, so I'm like, where am I going here? So I ended up going to SHAPE headquarters in Belgium, in Mons. And that was an interesting assignment. If you know anything about SHAPE headquarters, it's the supreme headquarters of the Allied powers of Europe, where the big general sits for all of Europe. But I went to an MI unit there because at the time I had had a top secret security clearance as a 71 Lima, and few and far between admin specialists actually had top secret clearances. So I got to go work at an MI unit, and we were working. I was primarily working threat databases for Europe, so everybody kind of knew what the threat was from terrorism at the time. And then back in 78, 79 time frame, you know, you still had the Baader Meinhof gang. You still had all the European terrorist organizations that were over there. So I was kind of managing the terrorist database that was there. My major at the time, the S2, said, "Hey, I want to send you to OCS." And I said, "Yeah, thanks, but I'm not going to stay in the Army. I'm doing my 3 years and I'm going to get out." And of course, 23 years later, I retire. So from there, I re-enlisted, and I decided, since I liked Fort Leonard Wood, I had some pretty good friends back there. I said, "Well, let me head back to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri." So I went back to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and I was assigned to the 5th Engineer Battalion.
Why did you re-enlist if you only had a plan of doing it? What changed your mind?
Well, I again, it was one of those things where I really didn't know what I wanted to do.
Uh-huh.
The Army allowed me to do what I really enjoyed doing a lot of, which was playing sports. So I got into a lot of the intramural sports, and
Okay.
pretty much every installation that I've gone to, I've tried to play the sports that were most prevalent at those particular assignments.
Okay.
So some of them was flag football, some of them was racquetball. I got big into racquetball, basketball, a variety of things. In Belgium, it happened to be darts and table tennis. And so I got into table tennis, got really heavily into table tennis. I learned how to throw darts with the Brits down in their little rec room they had in their basement of their billets.
Wow.
So I learned how to throw darts with them, and I learned how to play table tennis. And so I was like, this is a pretty good organization. I enjoyed,
I like the feel.
Yeah, I just kind of liked doing what I was doing. So I re-enlisted, and
Okay.
and I decided to go back to Fort Leonard Wood. So I went back to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Still there as a 71 Lima PSNCO. I was there for about a year. Got a phone call from a colonel in the Pentagon. Later to find out it was a master sergeant who pretended to be a colonel.
Are you kidding? Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But he said, "This is Colonel so-and-so, and we need to know if you want to come to an assignment over in Germany." And I said, "Well, what kind of job is it?" "Well, it's a civilian clothes job. You get relaxed grooming standards and that kind of stuff." And I said, "Well, can I think about it over the weekend?" He said, "Yeah, you can think about it. I'll call you back on Monday." I'm like, "Okay." So the sergeant major walks in. Battalion sergeant major walked in, and I sat in his office. I said, "Hey, I got this kind of this funky phone call, and it was this colonel from the Pentagon. He said he's got this assignment for me over in Germany, civilian clothes, relaxed grooming standards." He said, "It's probably a military intelligence assignment." And I'm like, "Oh, really?" He goes, "Yeah." And he said, "Oh, by the way, if you don't take it, let them know I'm interested in it." So I said, "Well, this must be a pretty good job." So when the colonel called me back on Monday, I said, "Yeah, I'm ready to go. When am I going to PCS? 4 months, 6 months?" And he goes, "Oh, no, you don't understand. We need you in weeks." I said, "In weeks?" I said, "Well, I was playing TRADOC. We had a big TRADOC softball championship, and I was part of the installation softball team at the time. And I said, 'Well, we got this big championship coming up in about 3 weeks.' And he goes, 'Oh, no, I need you before that.' And so literally I ended up PCSing with about 2 weeks to go. And I got over to Munich, and it was where the 66th MI group was stationed at the time.
What year was this?
That would have been 82.
In 82? Okay.
Is when I got to Munich. That was a great assignment. McGraw-Kaserne, little bitty Kaserne in Munich. Of course, you got the Oktoberfest there, and as a young single guy, it was it was a really great assignment to learn to travel and learn how to ski down in St. Veit, Austria, and so there was a lot of stuff going on there, and it was a good assignment. I enjoyed the assignment, and it was at that assignment that my master sergeant, who pretended to be the colonel, was assigned to that particular unit, and he said, well, I want you to become a 97 Bravo, which at the time was a counterintelligence special agent. And I said, well, And he goes, well, just so you know, the job you're doing right now is going to be done by 97 Bravos in the future. We're not going to use 71 Limas anymore. We're going to use 97 Bravos. And I said, well, I really like this job, so okay, I'll reclassify to 97 Bravo. And so in '85, I went through the interview process, got selected, came back to Fort Huachuca for my CI training, and then from there, I immediately went to the 25th Infantry Division.
And what year did you get here at Fort Huachuca then?
It was '85.
In '85,
Yeah,
okay.
'85. When I came back for school, and so graduated the course. Everything was good to go. I PCS to Hawaii, and I'm assigned to the 25th Infantry Division. And for those who know about light infantry divisions, it's a challenge being an MI guy in an infantry unit because they understand steel on target, and they. In a lot of cases, the sort of the nuances of what military intelligence can do for the fighting force in a light infantry battalion is or light infantry division is kind of lost on the infantry guys. So we had to rely a lot on the S2s to brief their commanders on how to use MI guys and specifically CI guys. And then, so that was about '88. I got reassigned to Field Station Kinea, which is an underground facility there in Hawaii. Everybody knows about Field Station Kinea. But it's got a big long tunnel in, quarter-mile tunnel that's underneath, and you can read about it online. It's on the internet. So I got a station there for another 2 years, and that's when I applied to become a warrant officer in 1990. And I got selected to become a warrant officer.
Oh, wow.
Went to Fort Rucker, Alabama in June-July timeframe, which was hot and humid. Mm-hmm. Graduated there and immediately went to the 7th Infantry Division. Again, another light infantry division as a CI guy. So I was a CI warrant officer at the time. Got there, became the S2 of the 107th MI Battalion. For those who know who Spider Marks is, the battalion commander at the time was then Lieutenant Colonel Spider Marks, who became, of course, 2-star general here, the commander here at Fort Huachuca. Did a couple years there. In '93, I got a phone call as the S2 of the battalion. I got a call saying that I was on levy, and so I was figuring for sure I was going to Korea. I thought for sure I was going to go to Korea. And they said, "Oh no, you're going back to Hawaii." So in '93, I PCS back to Hawaii, and the branch manager had told me, "Well, I will never send you tactical to tactical." And so when they told me I was going back to Hawaii, I was like, yeah, I'm going to the 205th MI Battalion, which is the strategic unit there. I'm getting to be Class Bs and all that good stuff during the day. So my orders said PACOM. I was like, well, that's kind of unusual that I'm going to PACOM. So I signed in at PACOM, and they said, well, sorry, Chief, hate to tell you this, but the 25th is really hurting for CI warrant officers, so we're going to divert you from Fort Shafter back up to Schofield Barracks. So I went back to the 25th Infantry Division. So in a span of 9 years, I was 25th Infantry Division, 7th Infantry Division, back to the 25th Infantry Division. Wow. So 9 years straight of light infantry divisions as a CI guy. And so for those of you who understand counterintelligence, you'll understand what my situation was.
How does it work in the military when you're enlisted and you transition to the warrant officer? You just do a packet or something? And
right, yeah. You just apply. You apply to become a warrant officer. It's an application process.
But you don't have to go to OCS or any of that?
No. Well, the WOCS, there's two sides of this thing. WOCS is the Warrant Officer Candidate School. So that's the Warrant Officer Candidate School, WOCS. So that's our OCS for warrants. Okay. So you go to Rucker there, and then once you're done with WOCS, then I flew back out here to Huachuca to do the Warrant Officer Basic Course. Okay. So then you do that's for all the W1s at the time. That was for all the walks. We came here as walks. And of course, when you wear walk on your uniform, nobody knew how to deal with you. They didn't know if they saluted you or you saluted them. So now I think they're actually pinning their W1 right out of WOCS. They pin W1 so there's no confusion. So they show up here with already wearing a rank. So
what was your grade then when you were enlisted? When you went to warrant?
Staff sergeant. Staff sergeant. Yeah, I was a staff sergeant at the time.
That's a pretty good jump.
It's I mean, one of the reasons that I jumped from being a staff sergeant into being a warrant officer was, um, at the time, being a staff sergeant, I was the only CI guy pretty much at Field Station Kania. And I really wanted to, I enjoyed training when I was with the 25th Infantry Division. I enjoyed training the enlisted troops as an NCO. I enjoyed training. And so I really kind of wanted to be the guy in charge of all the CI stuff that was going on for the unit. And so that's one of the reasons why I switched over to being a warrant officer, is because I kind of wanted to be the guy in charge of stuff. And so that's why I did it. Excuse me. And so, so 93 to 96, I was with the 25th again in the CI platoon. It was during that time frame that we did the deployment down to Haiti. I supported the 3rd Brigade up in northern Cap Haitian. The rest of the CI guys were down in Port-au-Prince with the division headquarters. 96, I had a conversation with Colonel Jerry Jones out here at ITRADS. I was always looking to become an instructor out here at the CI school. And so my branch manager called me and said, "Hey, I got an instructor job for you." And I'm like, "Oh, good. When am I moving to Huachuca?" He goes, "Oh, no, it's not at Huachuca." I'm like, "Really? Where is it?" He said, "Fort Polk." And I said, "Oh, no."
Really?
I said, "Oh, no. No." I said, "No, you don't understand. That's not an instructor job. That's an OC job. That's an observer controller job." So it's kind of like I said, "No, that's not." He said, "Well, I'm going to put you on assignment. I need a W-3 out there, and I'm going to put you on assignment." And I said, "Well, just so you know, I've already got my 20 years in, so if you put me on assignment out to Fort Polk to be an observer controller, I'll drop my retirement paperwork." And so he said, "Well, you're the 3rd W-3 that's done that to me." I said, "Well, you need to find a W-1 or a W-2 that can't retire on you,
right?
And that's the guy you need to assign out there. So because you're not going to get a guy who's retirement eligible to go be an observer controller out at Fort Polk."
Was it that the job was that bad, or was it the location?
Well, no. Well, Fort Polk was. And again, it's like kind of like I tell guys, your installation is what you make it for the most part. You know, there are fun things to do there if you get off the installation and do stuff out in the communities. You know, it could be a great assignment, but it was the job. I mean, you were in the field constantly, watching the JRTC rotations that happen down there, and so you're constantly in the field, and so it's a tough way to go. From an observer, I mean, it's an important job. Understand it's an important job because you're watching guys, you know, trying to execute their mission in a field environment like they're supposed to if they were in war. And so the job is critically important, but just a lot of field time, just a lot of time in the field. And I had my 9 years in light infantry division, so I really wasn't interested in going back to that mission again. And so.
So what happened? So you turned down Fort Polk. Then where did you end up going?
Here. I came back here. Yep, that's when I had the conversation with Jerry Jones at ITRADS. There was a warrant officer here working at ITRADS. It's now called the INSCOM Det 52, but it's a very small. It was like a 13-man detachment from INSCOM headquarters stationed out here to do liaison work with the schoolhouse and the G2. That's kind of a three-way thing between INSCOM, the G2, and the schoolhouse for policy on training and a variety of other things. And so they needed a CI warrant officer, one for policy issues to handle the policy side of the house, and the other one was to handle the Army Badge and Credential Program. And so I got out here in 96. Take that back. I was at Fort Bliss from 96 to 98. And then from 98 on to 2001 when I retired, I was working at ITRADS and running the Badge and Credential Program.
When did you retire in 2001?
It was it would have been March, I believe March of 2001 I retired.
So when 9/11 happened, did they want to reactivate you or anything, or no?
Never got the call. There was never anything that nobody ever got a hold of me from Millport or anything else saying, "Hey, you just got off of active duty. We want to bring you back because of that." Never happened. So.
But you would have.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yep, absolutely. And then the way it turned out. When I first got to ITRADS in 98, I told Colonel Jones, I advised him after doing the job for a little bit, I said, you know, this really needs to be a civilian job. It needs to have continuity because it's the B's and C's program, Badge and Credential Program, is a program where we issued the badge and the set of credentials that counterintelligence guys use to identify themselves when they're doing their investigations. Mm-hmm. It's like a surprise, really like a supply program. And so I said, the guy running this program really needs to have continuity. You can't have guys coming in with 15,000 badges out there. You really can't have, guys rotating through this assignment. You need to have continuity. So what we did was we drafted up a proposal to turn the program manager position into a GS-13 position.
Okay.
And so that got approved. When I retired, I applied for the job. I got the 13 job, so I stayed here and I ran the program for another 20 years. And then I personally retired from civil service in 2021.
Okay.
And so that's kind of in a nutshell. That's kind of my career in the Army so far.
So after 23 years, you retired at what rank?
CW3.
CW3.
Yep.
Okay. And looking back on all the different places, and let's go over a few of them. Like you said, you were in Munich. In what year?
I was in Munich from 82 to 85.
Did you get to go over and see any of the sites there, like the Berlin Wall or any of that?
Well, I actually got to fly into Berlin. We had an office over there that we were supporting at the time, so I got to fly in. And as you flew in, you got to see the wall around Berlin, and then you got to see the tanks that were pretty much aimed in towards the wall. So I got to fly in and see that. And of course, the Oktoberfest was the big thing in Munich. The annual Oktoberfest. That was kind of fun to go to. We had the Isar River. You had raft rides. Again, AFRC, Armed Forces Recreation Center, had a lot of tours that you could go on. So I took a trip down to St. Veit, Austria, and that's where I learned how to snow ski.
Wow, you took advantage of a lot of these places you were at, because there was a lot of historical events where you were at, like when you were in Germany, because the Berlin Wall came down, I believe, like it was in '89. When you retired, was right before 9/11. Also, another historic event while you were in service. I don't know if you served on or anything, but what happened during Desert Storm?
I never. Well, one of the first conflicts that I almost got to go to was when I was with the 7th Infantry Division. Was when all the LA riots hit.
Okay.
And we sent 7th Infantry Division actually sent troops down there to help support the local law enforcement down in LA. And I didn't get picked to go on that one. Mm-hmm. And then Somalia hit while I was there.
Right.
And I was just getting ready to PCS from 7th Infantry Division back to Hawaii. And so my replacement came in, and his name was CW2 Dave Darby. He was going to take over as the S2. He actually got tagged to go to Somalia. So he deployed with the 7th Infantry Division to Somalia to handle that mission. So, but never got to go, never PCS to any of the missions. So I got to go to Haiti when I was with the 25th, and then
what was that like? That area like? Because
Haiti was an interesting country. Beautiful beaches. If you got away from the urban centers where the cities were along the coastline. The beaches were beautiful. I mean, they rival anything in Hawaii. Any of the beaches in Hawaii, they rivaled them. They were just gorgeous blue water, nice beaches. But as soon as you got close to a city, the challenge is that a lot of the cities are built on a hill, and the way that they got rid of their human waste was to dig trenches down into the water. And so when it rained, everything went into the ocean, and there was this huge black circle, basically in the ocean, where sort of all the runoff went into. Yeah, so it was interesting, and the flies were crazy. The mosquitoes were crazy. We had to spray pretty much every day. They had to come through and spray. Your mosquito netting, which I had never used before, was critical, and it was critical in Haiti. But at the time we got there, the Marines had pretty much disarmed everybody in northern Haiti. So much so that one of the stories is that a Marine vehicle with a 50 cal on it pulled up to a Haitian police station, and we were disarming everybody, and that included the police force. And the Marines told the Haitians to come out with their weapons. Well, they came out and they had the weapons pointed at the Marines, and the Marines pretty much opened up with the 50 cal and cut the building in half. Because the construction down there, construction was not very good down there.
Right.
So they pretty much cut the building in half and took the weapons. And after that, there wasn't any issues with weapons up in northern Haiti.
To this day?
Yeah. So, and of course, they deforested, all the Haitians pretty much deforested their side of the island. You got Dom Rep on one side and Haiti on the other side. And if you look at a map, you can tell the line where one country is and the other country is, because on the Haiti side, there's no trees. It's all bare. And on the Dom Rep side, there's forests and everything else. So very green, lush, So, yeah.
Did you get to partake in any of the food or any of their...
No, there was a pretty strict rule about not eating the food, especially like the fish, because one of the stories that I tell about being in Haiti is we were up in a like a peninsula, so they had the port of Cap Haitian, which is where all the goods and services were running through. Well, we were on a little peninsula right across a little bay from it. That's where the brigade headquarters was. And I saw a guy out there in a boat one time, and he was fishing with a net, and he reached into this basically black water, and he pulled up his arm, and it was covered with black stuff. And he went like this and shook it in the water and lifted it up, and it was a silver fish. And, he put it in the boat, and they were going to eat it. And they also told us don't drink the water. And so some of our guys, not thinking, when they were trying to do liaison with the police and some of the local forces around there, Haitian forces, they were offered Cokes, but they offered them a Coke with a glass of ice in it. Well, they poured the Coke over the ice, and of course the ice is made from local water.
Right.
And man, they had dysentery for days. Yeah, it was pretty bad. Yeah. So we were warned about consuming any food or water while we were down there. So we did our own.
And how long were you there for?
We were only there for about 3 months.
3 months?
Yeah, we took over for 10th Mountain Division, if I remember correctly. Yeah, and then when we left, that's when the UN decided it was going to take over the mission. So we left. I think we left 6 or 7 Army CI guys down in Port-au-Prince, and they put the blue beanie on their helmets with the UN on the side. So we left a few guys when we deployed back to Hawaii.
Wasn't 10th Mountain also in Somalia? Their division?
I don't know. I would assume probably yes.
Yeah, I was thinking. I thought I remember that, or in the movie Black Hawk Down that they were running to, and I thought it was the 10th Mountain.
Yeah, could very well be. Yep.
Wow. So looking back on all the different places that you served, what was your favorite duty station as far as scenery and activities to do that were not while you were on active duty, in other words?
Well, I would probably say Hawaii. Hawaii was a really great assignment. Although it was with an infantry division, like I said, one of the things that I always did on any installation that I went to was to get out into the community and do stuff that was in the community, like playing sports, going to movie theaters, and supporting the local economy kind of thing. But sports was the big thing. So when I was in Hawaii, not only is it gorgeous over there, it's beautiful.
Right.
But I played a lot of softball, played a lot of racquetball with the local people.
Any golf?
Golf.
Golf.
Yeah. I played a golf course called Ko'olau, and it was ranked the number 2 hardest course in America.
Wow.
And I literally must have lost about 21 balls on that golf course. David Ishii, a professional golfer, lost 7 golf balls on that course. Yeah, and so basically, it's the fairways are crowned, so that unless you landed like dead in the middle, it rolled off to the sides, and on the side was like you had fairway and then triple canopy jungle in Hawaii. So you were either in the fairway or you were in the jungle looking for a ball. So the best part was I probably found about 15 balls as I was looking for mine. So the net loss wasn't all that bad. So. Yeah, but that was fun. Hawaii was a very good assignment, and again, I got to go there twice. I was there as an enlisted guy, and then went back as a warrant officer. One of the benefits of going back as a warrant officer the second time was the battalion commander and the G2 allowed me to script all the civilian on the battlefield play for my CI guys, so that when the brigade went out to do their exercise, I was in charge of feeding all the civilians in for my guys to go talk to and do the interviews and help feed that information into the exercise play to help drive the maneuver guys. So that was probably the most enjoyable assignment that I had when it comes to being counterintelligence.
Right. That
was a really good assignment. So, and then I did 5 of those brigade level exercises through my entire time there. And by the time I got to the 5th one, the G5 actually asked me to script in some civilian role play for his guys to be able to interact with civilians on the battlefield as well. When I first started, first of 5 exercises, I had like 6 or 7 of the NCOs out of the S3 shop that were, I don't want to call them broke, but they were broke. So I got to use them as civilians on the battlefield. By the 5th exercise, the Division G2 actually directed that an entire infantry battalion get into civilian clothes for me. And so I had several hundred kids in civilian clothes pretending to be civilians on the battlefield during these exercises. So that was pretty amazing.
How did that interaction work?
Oh,
while they were on the battlefield, how did that go about? I mean, were they?
Well, we inserted them. They were like when the division went to the exercise, we had villages set up in the training area, and so they populated the villages. Okay. So they were the villagers, and they had different positions like the mayor, the police chief, and everything else. So my guys would go in and do liaison with their people. The infantry guys would go in. The infantry guys would go in and they would screen people. They would find people up in the hills and they would screen them. The interrogators would interrogate people we thought were bad. So it was a whole, it was a whole village basically. We set up literally a whole village for the brigade to go in and actually interact with civilians on the battlefield, which for the most part had never been done before. They just sort of replicated it in previous exercises. So
for some reason I was thinking mass casualty exercise for some reason.
Oh yeah. No. Well, that too. Those were happening a lot as well. The NEO, which is happening in Sudan right now. One of the things that we practiced a lot was the NEO exercises, which is non-combatant evacuation operations. So you go in and basically you go into a country and hopefully the State Department has a list of all the U.S. citizens who are in that particular country with their addresses. And so if we get the direction to go in and remove them, hopefully we've got the accurate list. We go into the country, we find them, and then we extract them out of that particular country because of the internal conflict that's going on, which is happening in Sudan right now. So
I thought they all reported to the embassy to be evacuated. It doesn't work that way?
Well, up through that way, yeah. But it's State Department, embassies. The embassy is supposed to have the actual on-ground list.
Right.
But when you're prepping to go, the State Department should be feeding you information from the embassy on kind of what you're looking for, so that when we're putting together our op boards, our operations plans, to where we're going to go and who we're going to get, so we kind of have an idea before we get there, rather than waiting till your boots on the ground and then get the list on where you're going. So
Evie said, good morning. Good morning, Evie. How are you this morning?
Hi, Evie.
And then Kathy wants to know, what are the job requirements for a warrant officer?
When I became a warrant officer, the requirement were you had to have a lot of experience. Mine was sort of like the first group of guys who applied to become warrant officers that didn't have to sit in front of a board of other warrant officers. Prior to me, the way that you would be accepted to be a warrant officer is you would have to literally sit in front of a board of senior warrant officers, and they would grill you on that particular job skill, that MOS. And then if you were sufficiently knowledgeable, because back then experience and knowledge were really the key. As it transitioned into when I applied, I still had to write up a resume and give them an idea of what I was doing, but I don't want to say they were hurting for warrant officers, but we needed to fill up the warrant officer ranks. So, they looked at your resume and they looked at your application, and then they made the selection based on that. So I got selected there. And then it transitioned into now where they actually have a name for a W-1, which personally, and again, these are all my opinions on stuff, but the new term for a W-1 these days is a novice warrant officer. And I'm not too sure how many commanders out there are looking to have a novice warrant officer.
Who came up with that?
You got me on that one. So they wanted it, so it's not, like novice, apprentice, like the trade skill sort of grading system. But I'm not sure there's too many commanders out there that really want a novice warrant officer advising them on the technical aspects or the legal aspects of running counterintelligence investigations.
I'm not so sure that one was well thought out.
Yeah, that name doesn't work very well. So, but it was pretty much just an application packet. You have to have experience in MOS. You have to know your stuff. You have to know the regs. You have to know policy, So if you know all that stuff and you can articulate it in your resume and your application packet, that's basically how they graded you. And again, it's the senior warrant officers at Milpo who are the ones who are looking at your packet and deciding whether you've got what it takes to become or the potential to become a warrant officer.
So when you were a young enlisted man, you shared all your different stories and services and stuff with me. But I like to ask this question: what was your first impression when you went overseas? Your first overseas duty assignment? Because I mean, you're from Wisconsin, so it's got to be a totally different culture over there, totally different scenery.
Oh, it was absolutely, yeah.
What was that like for you?
Yeah, it was a culture shock because I went to Belgium. That was my first assignment, was Belgium, and about I want to say 2 or 3 weeks before I was getting ready to fly, they tried to blow up General Haig, who was the SACEUR at the time, Supreme Commander of Europe, Supreme Allied Commander of Europe. They tried to blow him up. The terrorist organization put a bomb under a road and tried to blow him up. You know, like 2 weeks before I was about to go there, and of course my mom called me and said,
"Don't go."
Is that where you're going? And I said, "Yeah, that's where I'm going." And she's like, "Oh, wow." So when I got there, what I didn't realize is Belgium, and I didn't know anything about Belgium. So I had to do a lot of studying before I went there. They speak French. It was I had to live on the economy because as the MI guy that was there, I couldn't be in the barracks with the other troops that were there. There weren't a lot of troops there a lot of U.S. troops there to begin with. It was a coalition of different European countries had their troops stationed there. So because of the unit I was assigned to, I had to live off post. And so I was living on the economy, so I had to learn how to speak some French to be able to talk with my landlords.
What was the housing like there?
It was almost like you see on TV, which is it's pretty basic, just basic rooms with windows with no shades and that kind of stuff. And it wasn't a lot of wood. It was a lot of, I don't want to say stucco, but it was a lot of. It was really basic, really basic housing.
Okay.
Yeah, but I found a place that was within about a 30-minute drive of the SHAPE headquarters. The landlords were great. I got to again, based on where Belgium is located in Europe, I got to travel to Paris. I got to travel to London, so I got to see Paris and London while I was there. We traveled into Germany for softball.
Do you know how many people don't get to see those countries? You're pretty fortunate.
Well, and that's one of the
cool.
things when kids ask me about joining the Army, I'm like, you're going to get to see places and do things that the average American kid at your age is never ever going to get to see.
Right.
So yeah, so it's an experience. I mean, there were I tell them, there's good jobs and bad jobs, and again, the installation in the job is kind of what you make it. It's what you put into it, and I made some great friends. I got a lot of great friends still from my Army days. There are some people that I would never ever want to see again from my Army days. So so that's kind of the way it works.
Did you have a pretty good senior enlisted? See if I can ask this question right. Like a senior enlisted corps or service members that would like guide you as a younger enlisted person and encourage you and be supportive, or did you run into some that like gave you like a really hard time and you found that they weren't that supportive of you wanting to be in the military, or did you have any issues like that?
No, most of the NCOs, my first assignment back in those days, you didn't want to go see the first sergeant. And the first sergeant that I was working with, the company I was assigned to was a general admin company that supported the installation AG office. So you have that general company where all the people who supported all the different installation facilities were all assigned to that one company. And so the first sergeant was very good. He counseled me. The E7 I had in charge of the AG, he counseled me on a lot of stuff, kept me pretty square. Pretty much the assignments I had after that, there was only one other like NCO in my office with me. Like when I went to Belgium, I had of course the major, and then I had a really good senior NCO as a staff sergeant. But it was a very small office, and so again, a special MI unit, and it was very special, and so the staff sergeant really was a guide. The major was a pretty good guy, and he really guided me. I went back to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, to the 5th Engineer Battalion. Sergeant Major was great. Again, back in those days, if you had to go see the first sergeant, you were in trouble. If you had to see Sergeant Major,
Right.
you're probably getting discharged. But the Sergeant Major was great. First Sergeant was good. 5th Engineer Battalion guys are the engineer troops. Combat engineers are crazy. The actual combat engineers are pretty crazy. But when I got there, the E6 in charge of the S1 section had issues with alcohol and basically was dismissed from the position. So I actually moved up. I was an E4 acting jack.
Right.
And I actually got moved up to be the PSNCO at the time. And so I was actually running the S1 shop for the battalion as an E4 acting jack E5.
See, the reason I asked that question is, and I swear to God, last night I had, sometimes I have these dreams, and I kind of call them nightmares, but of when I was in, because I served here on Fort Huachuca at Raymond W. Bliss. I was a 71 Golf, and I did patient admin, medical records, and my senior enlisted sucked. They were not encouraging. I mean, you're in junior enlisted. You're just getting your feet wet.
Right.
You're trying to learn how to fit in and to do the job and fit in with your unit. And there was just like no support. Because, you go from when you're in AIT, right? And basic training in AIT, you're taught like an E4 comes walking towards you. You get up, you go to parade rest, you give the greeting, stuff like that. And I got here to Fort Huachuca, and it was just there was none of that here.
Wow.
It was very, very lax.
That's tough. At
that time.
That's tough for a junior enlisted guy.
Yeah.
That kind of environment, that would be tough.
So that's why I had asked that question, because it was
No, I actually got pretty lucky. Most of the people that I had any sort of issue with were, and again, this is just my experience, were S2s and commanders in the light infantry divisions. Didn't really have an understanding or an appreciation for how counterintelligence could be a force multiplier for the infantry guys. And so because they didn't understand that, whenever we went to the field, they wanted to make us like talk guards.
Right.
They wanted us to not do counterintelligence type work, which is, for those who don't understand what counterintelligence is we have our military intelligence guys, and their job is to collect information on the enemy so that we can put steel on target, so we can defeat the enemy. Well, the enemy's collecting on us as well to try and do the same thing to us. Well,
Right.
The counterintelligence guy's job is to try and counter their collection efforts against us. So that's what counterintelligence guys are supposed to do. And really, the tactical force really doesn't have an appreciation for what we can do for them in a tactical environment. Most of them think it's just a strictly strategic, suit, tie, kind of job for CI guys, when that's really not the case. We're beneficial in a tactical environment as well.
Well, and I tried to stay away from a lot of the security type questions because I didn't want you to have to kill me later. So,
Cut your head off, put it in safe.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I like to get back to some of your hobbies. Before I forget, one last quick question. Why did you end up choosing Fort Huachuca to stay? What was it about this base, out of all the places that you were located? Why were we lucky enough to have you stay in our community?
Well, the one was I got a job. After retiring, I got a job immediately here on post.
Okay.
And also, we got here in '98. My wife likes it. It's a small community. There's not a huge crime problem. She just appreciated the sort of the hometown atmosphere of Sierra Vista. If we needed to do something, we could always run up to Tucson or up to Phoenix. It wasn't a crazy drive to try and get to those places. But she's a more of an introvert, so she appreciates small town. I'm more of an extrovert. I like to get out and do things and see people and play sports and that kind of stuff. So, but I like Fort Huachuca. I actually originally got here in '77. My brother was stationed here as a signal soldier. He was running what was called at the time 0 week. So whenever they had new troops come in, he would put them in a conference room, and he would have snakes and tarantulas and all the different animals of the desert, and he would teach them about the desert, basically. 0 week. So the first week you're in the desert, he teaches you about the desert, what to be careful for, water, all that kind of stuff. And he would actually go out and catch the animals in the desert to put in the terrariums that he had inside his 0-week conference room. There was the Herald actually did a story on him cooking a rattlesnake or barbecuing a rattlesnake meat. And so, and of course, what's the phrase you always use? What does it taste like?
Tastes like chicken.
Tastes just like chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those kind of things. So that's when I first got here, and that's when they still had the signal emblem up on the hill.
Yeah, I remember that.
They still had that up there, right? And so when I found out, like again, I wanted to come back to Huachuca to be an instructor because I wanted to teach young CI guys. And so when I got here, the job wasn't quite that, but it was a great job. I enjoyed it. Again, I like Sierra Vista. I like the people here. It's been it was a comfortable thing. We got a house, bought a house, paid it off. We're good to go. So yeah, so it's been a comfortable. Fort Huachuca's been fun. Sierra Vista is a very comfortable place to live. So we've enjoyed it since we've been here.
And we're not too far from Tucson. If you want to go watch the U of A basketball game or a football game or something, you can go up to Tucson. And Phoenix is only 200 miles away. So
yeah, and she's a University of Hawaii alum. And of course,
University of what?
Hawaii.
Hawaii? Okay.
Alum. So yeah, she graduated from University of Hawaii. So when the Hawaii Warriors come over to Vegas or wherever to play New Mexico, they go to New Mexico State to play different sports. It's within traveling distance from here. It's within traveling distance for us to go watch her alma mater play some sports.
Oh wow.
Yep.
I know they've been in a few bowl games too in the football season.
Yeah. Right now they're fighting the men's volleyball team. I think they're ranked number 1 in the nation, and they're just starting the NCAA tournament. And they just beat a team last night to advance in the bracket. So, yep. So they're doing good.
So Kathy wants to know, what's the craziest desert critter that your brother caught, and where did he find it?
Well, I'm not sure where he found it, but it's definitely the rattlesnake. He said the rattlesnakes were always the challenge to try and catch them and to bag them up and get them back to the terrariums. But it is the creature, I will say, that most troops who had never been to the desert, when they come in, the rattlesnake is the one that always gets their attention. It's the one they're almost always focused on. The tarantula, most people have seen spiders before, so it was a spider, big hairy spider kind of thing. But no, the rattlesnake always got their attention. Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
So when you retired here to Sierra Vista, and I understand that you are also active in some of the community things, like you were coaching sports.
Yeah, I was coaching. We coached. A good friend of mine, Billy Phillips, who's also a retired warrant officer. He and I worked together in a badge and credential in the probationary office. I helped him coach his daughter's, I want to say it was a U12 girls fast pitch team. I coached Bev from here. Coached her on a women's 55 and older slow pitch softball team. We won some pretty good tournaments. So that was enjoyable. Right now I'm involved in helping a friend of mine coach her son's little league team, 5 to 8 year olds. Herding cats.
That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, herding cats. So yeah, I've coached a lot of different. Like when I was in Europe, I coached a girls 16 to 19 modified fast pitch. We won the European championship. So I've coached a variety of teams throughout my time. Played a lot of different sports. Like I said, flag football, racquetball was big for me. Actually got to go to the All Army tournament a couple of times. Didn't win anything, but I got to go. So I enjoy racquetball a lot. Golf, of course, especially here. So I've played a lot of different sports. Darts. I shoot pool. My dad taught me how to shoot pool, so I got pretty good at that.
Have you tried pickleball?
Not yet.
I hear that's pretty cool.
Yeah, not yet. I had a couple years ago. I had a pretty significant surgery on my lower back, so moving, turning, twisting, and stuff like that is still a bit of a challenge for me yet. I haven't fully recovered from that particular surgery yet, but I like pickleball. It's an interesting looking sport. So
it is, isn't it?
And I joined, and so I'm involved with 4 different groups now: the Rotary Club, of course, the Warrior Healing Center, Salvation Army, and what's the 4th one? Gosh darn it. Anyway, so there's four different organizations that I'm working with. Some of the guys in the Rotary Club were actually pickleball players, so
Okay.
I went out and watched them play a little bit. And of course, they're all very happy to let me try their rackets and their paddles and everything to try and play the game. So as soon as I'm feeling physically well enough to do it, I'll probably jump in there.
Cool.
So
Cool.
yep. So it's been an interesting time.
So how did you find out about the Warrior Healing Center, and how did you get involved here?
Well, the truth is, I was sitting at Paul's Pub having a Budweiser, and somebody came in, and I was talking to them, and I said, "Well, where did you come from?" And he said, "Well, I was just across the street at the Warrior Healing Center." And I said, "The what?" He said, "The Warrior Healing Center. They help vets." I'm like, "Oh, I need to go check that place out." Because when I retired, my wife retired. She was very comfortable. She's, again, being an introvert, she's very comfortable being at the house, reading her books, watching the Hallmark Channel,
Right.
Playing with the cats, kind of thing. Me, I got to get out and do stuff. So I was very bored. I had to find something to do. So Kay Phillips, who, oh, by the way, is a veteran, I'm going to recommend you guys interview because she's an amazing lady. So there was something I wanted to do. So I got with her, and she encouraged me to join the Rotary Club. So I was volunteering with the Rotary. I joined the Rotary. We were doing community projects. And so then I decided I was finally going to stick my head in here. So I stuck my head in here and said, "Hey, I want to help out and I want to do stuff." And so Evie, Kathy kind of took me under their wings and kind of let me know some of the projects that were going on here. And so I sort of took over the weekly calendar that we post on Facebook.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm helping out with that.
This is your baby, huh?
That's it. That's the one I work with right there. That's it. And so, and then other special projects that I work with. Same thing with Salvation Army. I help them with their food distribution first and second Tuesdays of the month. Of course, when my shoulder's not bad.
Right.
I help them with food distribution for families. And then, God, I'm trying to remember what the fourth organization is that I'm working with.
But it's important that as veterans that we stay involved in our communities, don't you think?
I absolutely agree. Yep. I try to volunteer. I try to find those special projects, people that are in need of doing things and in need of volunteers, and one, it keeps me busy, and two, it helps out the community.
Yeah, and you're kind of leading by example too. If you're setting a good example, and somebody can say, "Well, if he's out there doing this, I could be out there helping doing that as well." So it is leading by example too.
Absolutely. And again, the veteran community, we have a huge veteran community here. So anything that people can do to help the vets, again, the number 22 and
22 a day.
22 suicides a day. And so the goal, again, for the Warrior Healing Center, and one of the reasons I'm involved here, is that the projects and the programs that they have here are to help restore hope in the veterans' lives, so that they don't make that decision, and that we try and get them on the right path, and we get them back to prosperity, and we get them back to living a good life again.
Yep, I totally agree. I'm on board 100% with that too, because we gotta keep people engaged and involved, and not just sitting at home where they have all this thoughts and stuff. It's just,
well, the program where the folks here call vets,
yeah,
and just talk to them and just
For
say, "Hey,
calling,
how
yeah.
you doing? What are you up to? What are you doing? How are things?" Just checking in on them lets them know that they're not forgotten.
Yeah.
And that I personally think that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Do you have any words of wisdom or inspiration you'd like to share in closing here?
Well, the one thing that I always tell folks is that a day without sunshine is like night. And so I tell guys I kind of live by that. And but no, just if you can help, be kind to people, be nice. It doesn't hurt anything to be nice to people. So we got a nice small community. I enjoy it here. People are nice for the most part. People are nice, unless you're driving out on 92 and they're doing 45 and a 55.
Or a load car driver's trying to run you over or something. You got to watch out for them.
That's exactly right. Yep.
But all right. Well, Elmo, thank you so much for sharing your story. We really appreciate it so much. I got a few announcements I want to share with everybody here real quick, and then we'll sign off here. So on Monday, May 8th, starting at 17:30, going to 18:30, we have the 5 Treasures of Qigong, which will be taking place here at the Warrior Healing Center. And also Monday, May 8th, starting at 1800, going to 2000 hours, is going to be the legal and finance seminars. It's Finance 101, and that'll be done here at the Warrior Healing Center's main conference room. I highly recommend that you check that seminar out. There's a lot of good information that they put out for you. So please, if nothing else, check that one out. On Tuesday, May 9th, starting at 1300, going to 1400 hours, is the Women's Domestic Violence Support Group. And what this is it's a brand new group that's getting started here. And we need to let people know that we have these type of support systems here for veterans, whether they're men, they're women. We have all these different support groups. So this is yet another new support group that is starting here at the Warrior Healing Center. Again, that starts Tuesday, May 9th, starting at 1300, going to 1400 hours. Then on Tuesday, May 9th, starting at 1400 hours and going to 1530, we have the Travolta Hope and Wellness Support for Caregivers, Warrior Healing Center main conference room, and that is a support group for caregivers. So if you are a caregiver and you feel like you're overwhelmed, or you just want to maybe network with other caregivers, maybe get some resources or something like that, just come and check it out. It only costs you your time. All of this stuff is free. On Wednesday, May 10th, starting at 0800, Bello Vets is doing their Sierra Vista group ride, and they meet at the Pueblo del Sol Country Club parking lot. At 1700 to 1730 on Wednesday, May 10th, we have the hula dancing for beginners here at the Warrior Healing Center. And then at 1800 to 1930 hours on Wednesday, May 10th again, we're talking about Heart to Heart. That's a ladies PTSD support group that's been going on for a few months here. It's picking up some steam. And if you want more information on that, just show up. Come in at the Warrior Healing Center front conference room. All of these, there's like, I know you can't see it on the camera, but this page, like I almost said, it's posted on Facebook, and all of these events are up there. So if you ever want to know what's going on at the Warrior Healing Center, just go up there and look at the Warrior Healing Center Facebook page, and you'll see all of these events listed there. Thursday, May 11th, starting at 1800, going to 1900, is the DAV monthly membership meeting. That'll be taking place at Cochise College. And then also Thursday, starting at 1830, going to 2000, is the Warrior Headspace and Timing, another support group that meets right here at the Warrior Healing Center. So again, all of these events are for you. They're free. The only thing they cost you is your time. And don't forget, it is Cinco de Mayo. And we are having our Fun Food Friday today, starting at 11 o'clock, which should be here in about an hour. And it'll be going until at least 1500 hours. So I hope you guys can come in and have some free food today. Come on down and join us. All right. Thank you for joining us. Have a great day, everybody, and a great weekend.